eventually have families and all of that, how do you then encourage access to education? No matter your disability, no matter your caste, no matter your religion, race, whatever. How do you then promote an access to education? What is your thought on that? And how do we take it forward?
Important to say that people, particularly people from marginalized communities, have for centuries wanted to access education, but they've been deprived of it.
Correct.
And I mean, we are having this conversation in the background of reservation for OBCs in all India medical exams, which has caused a huge uproar. So I think if there are people, individuals, corporates, communities that are committed to the idea of everybody exercising their right to education, then they have to realize that affirmative action is an equalizer, and it is one that allows for people who have been historically deprived of exercising their right to education to be able to now exercise that right. And I think it's important that for people who want right to education to become a reality for everyone, to be able to then invest their time in encouraging people and really building that sort of discourse and standing by these sorts of right-based sort of measures that the government has taken, such as the affirmative action policy, to stand by them in various ways, not just in education, but also in hiring, in promotions, every way, right? Because I think otherwise, until then, what we will be looking at is that we will look at a more diverse workforce, and it will be representative, but it will not do anything to make sure that the status quo changes, right? That there is any change in terms of the way that power is distributed in our society. And I think for people who are committed to the idea of equality, then to understand the question of education and access to education as a redistributive mechanism, one that shifts the balance of power, and to not just be committed to it verbally, but also through their actions every step of the way, in their families, in their organizations, and the society that they live in.
So for people who don't have physical power to do a job, they need their mental power. And for mental power to be utilized or to be recognized, you need education. So for people with disabilities, the only way to really become financially independent and truly empowered is by getting an education and hence getting a job based on that. Because see, the whole point of a disability means that your physical movement or physical participation in the society is reduced. At least the people that don't have mental disabilities, when we're talking about them, right? Which basically means education becomes, you have to have either of those things. You either have physical strength or you have mental strength. So mental powers is where you will only get your standing, which is where, let's take the case of Sumit and I both. We both have managed to be where we are only through education. And hence the access to education is the primary way we get people with disabilities into the corporate sphere, into the economic sphere, and truly lead to their empowerment. And hence remove the stigma of being disabled, because that also is the main objective when we're looking at this.
Different viewpoint, right?
Okay.
When we talk about education in general, I sort of topped both my universities where I did my post-graduation. But when we talk about education, are we talking about general degrees or whatever we are taught in colleges?
I'm talking about skill, basically. So you look at. See, education can be anything. It doesn't have to be a degree. It has to be what you're learning out of it, right? A degree would probably get you through the door, but if you don't know how to use a computer, it doesn't really the thing. That's a skill,
So taking forward what you just said, skills can be self-taught. You don't need to attend educational institutes to, get or acquire a skill. Most of the companies like Google now have made it optional to have a degree, as long as you can prove that you have the skills.
Can I disagree? Sumit, actually, you're talking about a very elite segment of people with disabilities who are already coming from those families who are that empowered to think like that. When we talk of masses and we talk of most people with disabilities in the country, we must also remember disability in India actually arises out of poverty more than anything else. The mother did not get right treatment. The child did not get right treatment. There was an accident at the time of birth or during pregnancy, and that gives rise to a lot of disabilities in India. So when you're talking about this, you're talking about a very, very rare percentage of people who will come from that family where genetic disabilities arise, right? But most Indian disabilities are not genetic, they're environmental, they're medical, and they're situational. So, no, you do need education. You need that degree for that foot in the door. That doesn't happen.
So my question was not in present scenario. My question is for everyone listening today, when you have about 200, 300 people here who will in the future have families, and they need to propagate education as a basic need, a basic right? So that was the question.
Google will not take everybody.
Yeah. So,
it will take 2 people. I am talking of the rest of my country, right? We have 10 lakh plus people, crore people probably that have not been recognized. 2% of the population also, if we take 2.48% or something, that was the actual number that was counted at some point, that still makes it around 3-4 crores. Those are not going to be hired, right? So for all of them, education becomes the only way they get their foot in the door. They get some opportunity.
Correct. So, yeah, Sumit.
So 3.4 crores to be precise. But when we talk about education, we have to talk about the new national education policy that is also in place. And one of the positive steps from the government was it introduced sign language as a course or a subject for the first time in India. So we can see positive steps that has been taken forward by the government. And coming back to the United Nations, the SDGs, they also have been working to reduce inequalities under SDG 10, which deals with reducing inequalities within the country as well as outside the country. So there is a lot of positive movement going on. So I believe just follow your passion. If you want to, follow a general degree, just go and do it. But if you want to go and do some music classes, become an artist, become a, anything, like you can follow your heart. I think it's applicable for, persons with non-disabilities as well.
Amazing. So,